What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction. In this, we have why do American roofs suck compared to British roofs? Before we dive in, we are here once again with Girl Gone London. Y'all make sure y'all go and subscribe to her channel. She releases absolutely amazing content. And also don't forget to subscribe to this one. After you do that, give the video a thumbs up. I'll put her link in this original video also in the description section. And if you'd like to support this channel further, all you gotta do is hit the join button to receive your exclusive benefits. Let's get to it.
Take a virtual drive through America with me because I want to show you something that Americans are extremely worried about. It's something that Brits don't usually have to worry about and might not even consider, and you can see it from the street. See that? That's a roof. And you're like, I know that's a roof. What's the problem? The problem is that roof, like most roofs in America, only lasts for about 15 to 20 years. And when it needs to be replaced, you're looking at an industry average of $30,000. So maybe the full story isn't that Americans are worried about their roofs, but they are worried about how they're going to pay for them. Across the pond, British homeowners are living in houses with roofs that have been faithfully protecting that house for sometimes literally centuries.
30,000? That make you not even want to buy a house, bro. Like, I don't even want to buy if I gotta replace a roof.
Plenty of adults in the UK have owned homes for their entire lives without ever needing a full roof replacement. So what's the deal? Let's start with the math that's crushing American families. The numbers are staggering and they're getting worse every year. Recent studies show that replacing an asphalt shingles roof, the type of roof covering nearly 80% of American homes, now costs an average of about $30,000 nationwide. The range typically spans from $6,000 to $13,000 if you own a small home, but if you own a larger home, this can explode to over $45,000. But of course, it gets worse. The costs increase every year, materials go up, and what cost $20,000 5 years ago might cost $35,000 today. And so here's the real problem. For Americans, this isn't a one-time expense. They'll face this problem every 20 or something years for the asphalt shingles. Basic shingles could last only 15 years, and premium versions might get you 30 if you're lucky. Now, meanwhile in Britain, roof replacement is not a recurring nightmare. It's something that might happen once in a lifetime or multiple lifetimes. And that's not saying that different parts of the roof might need some patches or replacement tiles over the years, but in terms of the whole roof needing to be redone, it's far less common. In Britain,
Being on that door just ain't it, bro. It just kind of too much cost, bro. When you talk about just the cost of living, you talking about rent, electricity, internet, phones, food, what else? So insurance, car note, health insurance along with that car insurance. Then you're talking about things that could happen, like having to replace your roof, my dad had to replace his air conditioning unit in his house, and that cost him a ridiculous amount of money. Honestly, yeah, it just doesn't sound like it's even worth owning a house anymore at this point. Like, F it. Bouncing rental from rental. So you ain't never got to be stuck with that fee because, jeez, getting hit with that fee at one time. Obviously, I would hope these places have payment plans, but just getting hit with that fee, yeah, that's
Proven tiles can easily last 100 years, and historical buildings still standing today often have their original slate roofs even after hundreds of years. And clay roof tiles, another popular British material, can easily last for 50 to 100 years when installed properly. But why is this happening? The most dramatic difference in British and American roofs do lie in the materials themselves. Walk through any American suburb and you're looking at millions of roofs covered with what are essentially sophisticated petroleum products designed for temporary protection. Most American homes use asphalt shingles, which are manufactured by saturating either a fiberglass mat or organic felt with asphalt. Then you coat the surface with mineral granules and install. But here's the problem. Asphalt shingles are inherently unstable. It's a petroleum byproduct that becomes brittle in cold weather and soft in hot weather. Over time, the asphalt oxidizes, becoming hard and brittle. And the mineral granules I mentioned that coat the outside, they gradually wash away in the rain or blow off in the wind. Then the underlying mat begins to deteriorate from UV exposure and temperature cycling, and then you need a new roof. And I don't know if this tells you something, but asphalt shingles are often the similar type of materials that are installed on British shed roofs. That thing in your backyard that isn't meant to last a ton of time. Now, British roofing represents a completely different philosophy. They want to use materials that are essentially permanent. So instead of petroleum products, the British build with stone, fired clay, and engineered metals designed to last multiple lifetimes. Now, slate is the gold standard in British roofing, and Welsh slate, which was quarried from the mountains of Wales, is a kind of rock that formed over millions of years under intense pressure and heat. When this is properly installed, these stone tiles can last 100 to 200 years or more. The physical properties of slate make it nearly indestructible under normal weather conditions, so it really doesn't absorb much water, it doesn't burn.
See, this is what we need. This is why so many Americans be trying to get up on their roofs and do it themselves, bro, because can't nobody afford these roof prices. These roof prices are... That's insanity.
It doesn't rot, and it doesn't attract insects or rodents. Slate expands and contracts very minimally with temperature changes, reducing overall stress on the roof. The material is so durable that slate tiles removed from century-old buildings are regularly resold and reinstalled on new buildings. And the long-term economics are important. A slate roof might cost, in dollar equivalent, because that's what we've been using in this video, $25 to $35 per square foot installed. Compare this to $4 to $6 per square foot for asphalt shingles. But when you divide that cost over how long the roof actually lasts, you're looking at around $100 to $200 a year for the slate roof and around $1,000 a year for the asphalt roof. Now, something else used in the UK for roofs are clay tiles. British clay tiles are fired at temperatures exceeding 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, creating a ceramic material that is almost as durable as stone. These tiles are typically made from local clay deposits, and they're shaped and fired in kilns to create interlocking pieces that shed water and allow the roof to breathe. Now, clay tiles offer several advantages over the American materials. They're non-combustible.
I'm assuming, obviously, I'm gonna assume the asphalt tile is just cheap. It's the cheapest option to cover your roof, and that's why so many American homes are built with it, and not these materials that would cover for your entire lifetime, which sound like comparatively, it is starting to sound like American roofs suck compared to British roofs, but suck in general. If this is a situation I didn't know I was getting in. This is a cost that I've never thought about in my entire 30 years of existence. Replacing a roof. But I've never bought a house, so I've always rented, so it wouldn't be my cost if it happened. So I mean, I want to buy in the future, but situations and stuff like that
resist insect damage, and they don't deteriorate from UV exposure. And more importantly for this video, properly fired clay can last around 75 to 100 plus years with minimal maintenance. And the Brits have really refined clay tile manufacturing over the centuries, developing different installation techniques and profiles that maximize the longevity. Now, Americans do have access to durable roofing materials, but cultural and economic factors means that they're not adopted that much. For example, American slate, which is usually quarried in Vermont, can match the longevity of Welsh slate, but it costs even more due to limited production and specialized installation requirements that most people don't know how to do. And clay tiles are available in American markets, but they primarily serve southwestern regions where Spanish colonial architecture makes them culturally acceptable. But even those clay tiles are often different from the British ones, with American clay tiles prioritizing appearance over longevity, which means they use lower firing temperatures and less durable clays than the British counterparts. And as I've alluded to, there's a difference in manufacturing philosophy. American manufacturers optimized for low-cost, easy installation, and acceptable short-term performance. Product lifestyles are designed around planned obsolescence, not because the materials couldn't be made to last longer, but because longer-lasting materials would disrupt the profitable replacement cycle. And then you have installation techniques, because installation techniques can determine how long your roof is going to last. American asphalt shingles really prioritize quick and easy installation. Most installations can be completed in 1 to 3 days using nail guns and basic techniques that minimize labor costs. British installation of permanent roof materials do require more skill and more time. Slate installation, for example, involves careful selection and placement of individual tiles, overlapping calculations, and very specialized techniques to make sure it's all fastened together. A British slate roof might take 2 to 3 weeks to install properly compared to 2 to 3 days for an American asphalt shingles roof, and as we know, Americans don't like to wait. And then we have climate differences.
But if you would have told me the cost of what not waiting would be, I would definitely be willing to wait a couple extra weeks. If the cost is going to be $15,000 15 years down the road, or $30,000 15 years down the road.
Because we do have to factor in other things that might make American roofs last a shorter amount of time than British ones, and this comes down to America's extreme weather. The United States experiences some of the most extreme and varied weather conditions on Earth. From the scorching heat of Arizona summers to the brutal cold of Northeast winters, American roof temperatures are wildly swinging, and that's going to destroy a lot of building materials. The constant expansion and contraction puts tremendous stress on the roofs, causing them to crack and warp and fail prematurely. Then you have hurricane force winds from places like where I'm from in Florida. They regularly come across the southeast. Then you have hailstorms in the Midwest, and then the West Coast deals with wildfire conditions, so that can subject roofs to intense heat and flying embers even if the house itself isn't within the wildfire zone. So now, even if the asphalt roof is rated for 25 years, it might last only 15 to 20 in harsh conditions. Britain, by contrast, does enjoy a relatively stable climate. Of course, you do have wind and rain and sometimes freezing, but the extremes are generally less severe and the variations less dramatic than on the American side of the pond. And British slate and clay are naturally suited to this environment. Stone and clay materials actually handle moderate temperature variations very well and, in fact, improve with age as they develop natural weathering patterns that enhance their ability to shed water. And then we have one of the most fundamental differences in American and British roofs, and that comes down to the actual underlying philosophy of home ownership. The American way can be seen as fast and cheap, and you would be right, but there are reasons that underlie this. American construction has been heavily influenced by rapid expansion, the rapid suburban development in America, and the need to build houses quickly and affordably for a growing population. Americans also move more. They just do. They don't often think of a house as their lifelong home. Families typically move every 7 to 10 years on average, making homeowners figure that they'll just sell before the roof goes.
And it's crazy because, god dang it, I hate moving with every bit of my soul. Like, I can't stand moving. It's just supposed. You got to, physically you got to move every day, but then I got to set up all the electricity, the internet, the water. I got to wait for all these people to come out and do their thing, and sometimes they take longer than you had expected them to take. There's so much that comes with it, and then packing and then unpacking. I hate it.
Homeowners tend to view their homes as long-term family assets rather than short-term investments, making them more willing to invest in durable materials and proper installation, even if the upfront cost is higher. The true financial impact of Americans' frequent roof replacements does extend far past that original $30,000. Since most homeowners can't afford to pay $30,000 in cash for a roof replacement, many are forced to finance through home equity loans, personal loans, or contractor financing. And as we know about loans, over the life of the loans, the interest can add thousands or even tens of thousands to the total cost. There's also a huge property value impact. So an aging roof dramatically affects home values and marketability, and real estate agents often recommend roof replacement before listing a home, forcing the seller to absorb the majority of these costs that they probably won't get back. And the other thing to note, as we mentioned with weather, is that roofs can fail unexpectedly often in America, whether that's due to a hailstorm, a wildfire, a tornado, a hurricane, take your pick. And so because these asphalt roofs aren't strong enough to withstand these things, homeowners can pay premium prices for emergency roof replacement. Emergency roof work can cost 20 to 50% more than the planned replacement, and contractors know that they can charge you extra for rush jobs. And speaking of the contractors, the American roofing industry has obviously created a business model around this recurring replacement cycle. Roofing contractors depend on this regular replacement cycle for their livelihood. A contractor who installs roofs that last last 100 years might only serve that customer one time, if at all, but a contractor installing 20-year roofs would serve each customer 4 or 5 times a century. This creates obvious financial incentives to promote materials and practices that ensure regular, repeat business.
Exactly.
And then you have the psychological factors that really drive decision making. So as you can imagine, being presented with a $15,000 asphalt roof versus a $45,000 slate roof, and many people are going to choose the cheaper option, whether out of necessity or just because paying less sounds better. It minimizes the immediate financial pain, and they figure they'll deal with this in another 15 or 20 years. Like I mentioned before, Americans move a lot, much more than British homeowners, and so you're not necessarily thinking of your home as this lifelong thing. You're thinking of it as a short-term investment that you might not want to put a ton of money into. And finally, you have the financial system to consider, because a lot of people don't have the amount of money lying around to pay this roof cost at one time, so you depend on equity systems or loans. But getting approved for that extra money for a more durable solution can be much more difficult than getting a smaller amount of money multiple times throughout your home's life. Now that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you learned something new. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
I feel like I'm going in that situation where it's $15K versus $45K. So every 15 years, I'm going to have to replace it. 15 to 20 years, I might replace, depending on the size of your house, right? But it's going to take like 45 years for you to come up to the same price as the slate roof. And like she said, we're not really staying in the same house for 45 years, bro. Like, a long time. So yeah, you just pay 15 and you deal with it. It's probably and the materials are probably gonna be expensive, more expensive the next time you pay that 15. But I'll pay that 15. Like, maybe 20. I gotta pay 20 next time, but I don't know. This is crazy. I didn't know roofs were that expensive. I literally didn't. That's all we have. If you guys enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, check out the next, and I'll see y'all next time.